Hello, St. Mark's and friends of St. Mark's here in Wilmington, Delaware. These midweek things continue as we have occasion to find people who have something valuable and insightful to say, and we certainly are going to do that tonight. Or it's actually a little later in the day than we're recording this one than usual. But we continue to hope that these are of some inspiration and information for you as we track through, all of us, sort of new territory with COVID and the restrictions of being stuck in and so forth and so on. Being stuck in is a good place to start here because some people have no in to be stuck, and or their housing situation is tentative or whatever. So we're here to talk about Family Promise, and we have two people here today. And what I would first like to do is give each of you a moment to just say about yourself. Some people will know you, some people won't. Just who are you, and how long have you been involved with this, and that kind of thing.
I'm Pam Waters, and I've been a member of St. Mark's, I think, since birth or shortly thereafter. We don't get to church very often, not nearly as much as we would like. My mother, Ruth Carmine, I'm trying to, she's immune compromised, and I'm trying to keep her safe. So obviously we haven't been to church in a full year. I know we both feel that, but it just felt important, even, throughout all this, to continue working with Family Promise and trying to help folks during this really difficult time.
And you've been involved with it, Pam, how long?
Since St. Mark started doing this, so 2 years.
2 years, okay. Mm-hmm. Barbara?
I'm Barbara Gilbert, and I became involved with Family Promise. Well, first we heard about it years ago, and it was the rotational network where they would be coming and staying in our church. And we looked at that, and we just thought this church was not just set up to have families come and have someone stay every night. So when this opportunity came for the hospitality center, I was just thrilled, because it just breaks my heart to think of people, and especially children, not having a home to go to, a safe place to be. So this is a great opportunity, and I started as well. Him and I started together in 2018.
Gotcha. I go back to St. Stephen's when I was the interim pastor there, and an attempt was being considered to alter the facility in order to accommodate families. And what it turned out to be was dreadfully expensive, and so it really didn't happen. But also the church to which my wife and I belong, St. Philip's, is involved with the program. And while we haven't, that's not something we've been directly involved with, we truly appreciate it. And I know that people, as they become acquainted with what it is and how it functions, that they will appreciate it too. So I think that's why we're here. Perhaps you can just start at the get-go, not so much in terms of just St. Mark's involvement, but how does the system work? And let's keep it to pre-COVID, and then perhaps we can talk about what occurs and what restrictions apply and all that, since the virus has hit us so hard.
So the Hospitality Center is the Jesus House property on Milltown Road. And with that, we make our meals. Well, let's first start. It's 4 times a year, a week of serving each time. The congregations are the people, the volunteers, make the meal at their home, or they can come to church when churches were open and make a meal. They take it down then to the Hospitality Center, which in the Malgrim Center on the property has a dining room. And we would serve the meal there. And so we would take our meal, serve the meal, and sit down and eat with the families and just be there with them and just, be hopefully a bright light to them. We would stay and clean up, and some people would entertain the children. We've asked we could do homework with them, play a game, do a craft, and then they would go back to their cottages and then we would wait for security to come, and we would be usually leaving around 8 o'clock at night. So from, say, 5 to 8.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many people approximately would that event serve?
Well, initially, we had 25 people that we would plan on, as well as, say, maybe 3 to 4 volunteers from St. Mark's, and then the families of 20 to 21.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Pam, anything to add?
On the weekends, we also did, we did service where we would stay over with the families. They didn't have a security guard on the weekend, so someone, there would be a Friday and Saturday night volunteer to stay over and stay with, and, you know, just be on hand if, you know, in case anyone needed something in case of an emergency, so.
Other than that center at Jesus House, are there other locations?
Not hospitality centers in northern Newcastle County.
Okay.
There's just the churches that, you know, like St. Philip's does.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the hospitality, that's the first one.
Okay. And I presume there's a need for more.
I'm presuming that as well.
And that's why they're hoping to be able to add more onto the property.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
center was just opened, you know, prior to our involvement. So they were able to get that up and running and get, it took some work to get enough churches involved and make sure that there were enough people enough churches involved to handle that on a weekly basis.
Sure. Okay. And you talked, Barb, about some kind of an addition that's being planned?
Yes, they had talked about, first of all, they're looking into buying the property, Family Promises, from Jesus House. Right now, they rent the 2 cottages that they're serving. And on the property, they have a little chapel, they have the 2 cottages, and then the Malcolm Center. And they rent part of the space at the Malcolm Center where we serve the dinners, and the 2 cottages. But they're looking to buy because it's a pretty, I'm not sure how big the property is, but it's pretty good size, that they could add something more permanent. Right now, they're looking at temporary 4 100 square foot units, like possibly just for temporary use. But this is all in the beginning stages of that.
Okay. Well, I presume that the need, not simply, again, I want to keep this to the pre-COVID stats and energies and so forth for the time here, but I presume that the need is greater than many of us in Delaware can even begin to imagine.
Yes.
Where that comes from is I've been in Delaware for 43 years and was involved in homelessness and housing kind of issues prior to Family Promise. And we were told that the homeless population of Delaware 20 years ago, 25 years ago, was 2,000.
Oh, it's more now.
And, well, I'm sure it is.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the saddest things that I recall from that era, and again, I don't know that this has changed, it's probably especially now gotten worse, is children studying by streetlights outside their cars, you know, and we had one of the superintendents of the school system, and I don't remember which one, but who told us their problem was that the kids would be in one system for a week or 2, and then the next thing you know, they're gone and they're in another system, you know, for a while, and then they're gone. And that kind of transient situation is just pathetic all over the place, but especially for kids.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And I think, you know, Family Promise, you know, they have additional goals as well. You know, once they've accepted a family into the program, they work with the family, the parents, to try and work on budgeting skills and job training, and work towards finding them permanent housing and getting them into a more permanent situation. But the goal for Family Promise, what makes them unique is the idea of trying to keep the family together. Whereas if they go to another shelter, then the family is split up, you know, based on the family members. So a teenage boy would have to go to a men's shelter And actually, that starts, what is it, age 7, I think it is?
I
If
thought it
they're-
was a little bit older, but I'm not really sure
I
the
think it's
exact
age
age.
7, like, so if they're 7 and under, they can go with their mother to a women's shelter, but if they're 7 or 8 or whatever that cutoff is, and older, they have to go to a men's shelter, and that's gotta be very scary for a little boy. You know,
Absolutely.
or else, if they have a family member to go with, otherwise they go into foster care, which is also really traumatic for them as well. So that's their goal, is to try and keep the families together in one unit while they work to get them into a better situation where they can rebound from, whatever circumstances have brought them to this situation to begin with.
Pam, you mentioned the word unique as it relates to Family Promise, but it also begs the question of other organizations in the region that are doing at least similar kinds of things for families and so forth. Is there a networking of the agencies and institutions that are doing similar things, or do you know?
I do not know. Do you?
Well, we were told that that makes Family Promise unique because all the other ones abide by that rule of separating the teenage boys. So that Family Promise was the only one in Delaware that kept families together.
Wow. Huh. And that's so important. Oh, gosh.
And this could be grandparents, grandmothers, and the grandsons. It's not necessarily, it's whatever the family unit is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or can you give me some statistics, or give us some statistics about what the homelessness situation in Delaware is? I know it's a little bit hard to determine that because sometimes you can't find them. But
I didn't bring that information. I could look through my notes, but I know that when we first started, it was like, wasn't it like 1 in 5 children or something in one of the school districts? And I'm like, what?
I think that's accurate.
And and so I'm not sure. Now, I do know what Family Promise did. I have those statistics
Okay.
here. In 2020, they served 124 families,
different families now.
different families,
Okay.
with a total of 413 individuals. They had 43 average days to housing or shelter exit, which was a 77% positive outcome. Now, talking about congregations, there's 29 host congregations and 24 support congregations. So a total of 53 congregations are involved in this program.
And that's just the Northern Newcastle
Right.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can tell you too is as soon as one family would leave, they would already be working with other families on as soon as one family would move out and onto their next hopefully permanent housing, then another family would come in probably in the same day. I mean, they were, there's always such a need.
Quick turnover, right?
Yes,
Sure.
such a need for people to have a place to go.
Yep.
And they send them away with their beds. They're like the blow-up type beds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That goes with them. They get sheets to go with them. They have dishes to
Towels.
go with them. So they try
Silverware.
to help them. Silverware
Get started.
Mhm.
Is there a length of stay that's typical?
There's no limit on how long they can stay.
They prided themselves on like 60 days to have
Yeah.
the families out.
Yeah,
It's been longer with COVID.
Yeah, the
Okay.
turnaround pre-COVID was like she said. I think they were saying I don't even think it was 60. I think the average stay was 50 some days or something.
I think you're right.
But post-COVID, there's been a lot longer length of stay for some of the families that we've seen in there. So
Sure. What is the difference between a host congregation and a support congregation?
So St. Mark's is considered a host congregation, but we do it all on our own volunteers with St. Mark's. But say I contact Holy Rosary and they're not involved, and I say, could you join us? And maybe provide a meal 2 nights a week. So you have someone, so you're not responsible for 7 nights.
Mhm.
You're only responsible for 5 nights, and the support congregation the other 2 nights.
Okay. If my memory serves me correctly, that's sort of the partnership between Westminster Pres and St. Stephen's. They're very close. And St. Stephen's provides people, but at least for a while, there are people staying at Westminster. Is that possible?
They were staying at Westminster because when this first happened with COVID as well, when they closed the churches, someone from Westminster Presbyterian worked with us, and they provided meals 2 nights.
Okay.
Marla's her name was, yeah.
Yeah, yes, I remember her.
I would presume, I know from experience in another congregation that was involved early on with the Manual Dining Room, that there were hesitancies at first about what this meant and what it would be like, and was it dangerous, and just all those kinds of things. But I had people thanking me for getting us involved, and a part of what made that special for them was in the early days of Manual Dining Room, the volunteer churches served as well as just put the food out. And so they got up close and personal. They didn't sit down with them and eat like I hear you talking about, which is even better. I mean, if you want to get to know somebody, that kind of a context is, and I would imagine that the families just really appreciate that.
So I want to say it was obviously pre-2020. My boyfriend, Mike Lang, who is also a member here at the church, he and I served together. And one evening while we were at Family Promise, we sat down with a woman and she had a toddler, and she was pregnant and was due, I think, in a few months. I want to say it was probably about maybe 6 months, if that, after we served there with that group of people. We ran into that woman at Target up on 202. I didn't recognize her. We were walking out. She was going in, and I said something about her. She had it was a newborn, obviously, and she had him all bundled up in this really neat little, I don't even know. And I was like, "Look at you, little man, with your papoose." And she recognized me and Mike, and she came running out after us to remind us who she was. She said, you helped us at Family Promise, and I remembered her, and I said, and you're a little boy, and it was that moment was so rewarding for me I was like, look at you, you're doing great. And I said, and she said, we've got stable housing, and she was in Target buying some things and she said, I got a job. And it was just so rewarding in that moment to have that interaction that, we had helped someone, and now she was in a situation where she was able to start, bettering herself and moving things forward for her and her family.
A smaller but not less significant sense when we turned the keys over at Habitat to somebody. I mean, the gratefulness that came out of that was just incredible.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what else can you tell? Anything. Just inform us.
I would say that right now I know they're going through some different shifts internally as far as different programs they're still trying to work on with COVID. As Barb said, trying to move forward with buying the property. They had talked before about other properties that they might like to be able to purchase if they could find the funding for that. So it's something where obviously they see the need. They'd like to still be able to expand as their funding allows them to do. There's a program that's coming up. It's March. I don't remember. Is it March?
More 24?
Yes, the More for
As
24.
far as funding, you mean, to help support it?
Yes, there's a fundraising event coming up.
What are their funding sources?
I think that there's a lot of grants.
There's a lot of, they use grants that they've petitioned for, and they do fundraisers, so they any donations that are made to them help. I think Barb has mentioned here that you through smile.amazon.com you can select a charity, and a portion of your Amazon purchase. I mean, you're going to be buying from Amazon anyway. Who doesn't? And you can use a portion of your purchase goes towards the charity of your choice, and you can choose Family Promise of Northern Newcastle County as that choice to put your donation towards.
One of the things that comes to mind, therefore, and I will have to explore this, are Thrivent grants.
We do get them.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah, members here have gotten the grant And then we've used that because we go out, not only do we serve them dinner, we buy breakfast and lunch food for them. So with COVID, there's been more of a need when the children aren't at school.
Sure.
Before they would get their meals at school. So we would go out and buy milk, and certain types of milk and what they would like, and usually go to like Costco. So like Mim from St. Mark's would get it. And then we would have that, I think it's $250. And that's a great amount to be able to give. And a lot of times, most of the time, people make the meal and just donate it. But when there's shopping that involves all the families, that's a big help, rather than coming out of one person's pocket all the time.
So are there paid staff, or is it all volunteer?
No, there's some paid staff.
Yeah,
There are some paid staff. Okay.
Yeah,
I think
so
there's like 4. No, there might be even more, right?
I think there's more now. I want to say there's probably at least half a dozen. So they have there's a young man who does the fundraising work. There's a case manager.
There's Cheryl, that's the director. Andrea,
Who
works
does-
with outreach.
Who works,
with us.
yeah, she's the volunteer coordinator. Yeah, I can't
And probably
remember who else.
at least 2 case managers, there was.
Yeah,
And then I think they brought someone else on board.
yeah.
Is it a place one could visit?
Probably if, you could probably visit, I don't know how much interaction you'd be able to have with the families, but I would say that, if it weren't COVID times, I think they'd be willing
Well,
to,
sure.
willing to talk to you and have you, tour the property at least to see what they do.
The where that comes from is the closer, even if people aren't directly involved with the food serving and so forth, the closer people in a congregation get to something like that, which this I hope occasions, the more supportive they're apt to be.
Yeah, and I would say, for people that are concerned about, what the people might be like, the people are genuinely, typically responsive to you as far as being thankful, being gracious. It's hard. They're in a difficult situation. So even if they're kind of aloof, it's a hard situation to be in, and it's. You can't expect that when you walk in that someone's just going to be, falling over you with gratitude because,
sure.
It's really hard for them, the situation they're in. They may not be willing to, to interact on a one-to-one basis.
I guess I was really asking, the facility more than the people involved.
I'm sure you could.
I wouldn't want a bunch of people coming in peering at me either.
Right. But the facility, absolutely. I believe that they would probably be happy to have
I think they
do a
would,
tour.
too.
Well, that's something to look forward to maybe post-COVID, actually post-COVID.
Yeah.
And they
Now-
actually say too, Pastor, that they actually say that the biggest word we have to remember is being flexible.
Yes.
Because we could have 3 people and another 5, and then lo and behold, a family of 6 come the day before. So
Yeah.
you've got your food ready for the smaller amount. So we have to always be flexible, knowing that a new family could come or one could leave at any moment.
I got a call one night as I was on my way to deliver food that there was a new family coming in right then. So, that's something that can
Like,
happen. I think.
yikes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
There was an old adage that said a while back, when the church is being effective, it is often very inefficient. And that's because we're responding to things that we couldn't necessarily plan on.
Right.
And again, that's part of our responsibility is to respond to things that we weren't counting on, things along our path, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have found the experience to be something that I've enjoyed more than I thought that I would. And again, I found it to be very rewarding to, again, even if whether there was, one-to-one interaction with people or not, it just felt rewarding to be able to help someone, whether or not I'm ever going to see that person again. I didn't expect to see anyone.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, when the person that we ran into, I was thrilled in that moment just to see that that she and her family were doing well. But again, even if I didn't, I would feel good that I had just done something, with my resources and my time to try and help someone else.
Something that's fun to play with, for me at least, is so many of the stories in Scripture are snapshots. All right, woman at the well, and any number of others. It's interesting, at least to speculate righteously now, about what may have happened to her after that. We don't know.
True.
So you could run into the lady at the well a little later in the period or whatever, and that can happen, but doesn't necessarily happen.
Yeah, and I have seen too. I used to work in Philadelphia, and going to and from the train station, I used to see people that were homeless, and obviously that were begging. They were asking for food, money, whatever you could give. And more than once, I saw someone who was my own age, and at the time I was much younger, but still, and it always made me think, there but for the grace of God go I. That could be me. Under my circumstances could change in such a way that could be me. And
I'm sure you run into people who could never have imagined this.
absolutely.
It's just sometimes it's just they lost a job, or the one parent was paying for helping and the parent got sick or died, or we saw a family where the mother was dying while they were there, and just some things that people go through. And you're right, it touches your heart that you could make a difference, and you are making a difference. We are making a difference, just a little small part of us.
Well, sure, yeah. Small steps for mankind in the name of Jesus.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay, COVID obviously has changed things in terms of the needs are greater and more people and so forth and so on. Anything you can share with us in terms of what that looks like at Family Promise?
Well, at the hospitality center, really not the only difference, but we make the meal as we always have at home. If Family Promise buys it, we maybe can use the kitchen there, which would be nice because you're trying to keep everything warm. But we don't actually have the meals with the family. We take it to the cottage and we just leave it. We can leave it out on the table and, ring the bell and they can come and get it. I've actually handed it through if you feel comfortable, but we're not staying overnight. We're not doing the linens that we did, but it's just minimal contact.
Okay.
But you can see the parents or the families, or Andrea will let you know what the needs are. And so when you bring the food and you might happen to see them, they are so appreciative. But it's more, we're not having as much of the feel of being there, listening and being there for them. Mm. But we are behind the scenes kind of.
Gotcha.
Right. But the Family Promise, I give them so much credit because they have worked so hard to keep the staff safe, the volunteers safe, the families safe. And I think they've done an incredible job under something we've never had to deal with before.
Now, are there expressions of this same thing in other cities?
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm not as familiar with them, to be honest.
Me neither. Now, I know that they have.
But it's not just here.
They have a greater network of Family Promise, but I'm not sure exactly how many locations they have or how diverse, how many cities they're in.
If one Googled it, could one find out its origins? And
you probably could, and
Yeah.
Cheryl could answer that. Because Carolyn Gordon, who was the first one that we went through, she transferred, and she has Northeast Territory.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many are in that territory, but I think it is nationwide.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so during the COVID era, you don't have as much physical contact with the people, and the social distancing and all the precautions are at work. What about numbers? And of course, you can only take so many, but is there an obvious increase that you see in terms of the numbers of people who have needs? Or
Well, actually, at Family Promise, the numbers went down because they had to separate families in the
so
cottages. They're not
social
real big
distancing.
cottages.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have 2 families. We can go up to 4 families. And I think they're trying to have the families even eat separately. You know what I mean? In the cottages.
I think they, when the food goes in, I think that they get their plates and then go back to their rooms to eat, I think.
each cottage has 2.
Cottage 2 has 4 sections for 4 families.
Oh, okay.
Cottage 1 only has for 2 families,
Mm-hmm.
but they have some staff offices there and a volunteer bedroom there, and the washer and dryer is in cottage 1. But in cottage 2, right now, they only have 2 families, but it does say that it can go up to 4.
Is that intentionally limited because of COVID? Okay.
Yeah, so I think they're keeping them at opposite ends of the cottage to allow for maximum social distancing. Whereas
Yeah.
before it would be 2 at one end and 2 at the other end for that particular cottage.
And one little kitchen in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's simply nothing that this virus has not affected radically.
That's
That's true.
correct, yes.
How can people who may be watching in on us help?
I guess the obvious answers would be that they can donate, again, through the fundraising efforts. Whenever our weeks come up and we have our schedule, I think it's posted, I think. We have an upcoming week and everyone signed up within one day. We had all of our slots filled in one day to make meals for people and deliver down. That's another way. We're still shopping for groceries, are we not? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's another.
So that's something I pretty much have taken on.
Right.
Because I'll start out on Sunday and I'll find the need. And it's just easier for me to just go and get it. But other people have helped too.
Yeah.
Like Mim and such, but with COVID now. But we take the food and then midweek, say they're out of cold cuts for lunch or something, I will usually do that. And but anyone could make a donation. They'll tell you what they need. There's on their website, you can go and see what other, like paper towels they can always use, of course, toilet paper, cleaning supplies. Yeah. And that's on Family Promise website. They can also, like Pam said, make a donation. St. Mark's has a Family Promise Fund. Mm-hmm. They can actually go, like I said, to Family Promise and make a donation. They can do Do More 24 that's sponsored by the United Way, and donation can be, designated towards Family Promise. I guess, and if they would like to join St. Mark's, by golly, email us and we'll sign them up.
We'd be happy to have the help.
There's always a question, there is for me even, as to whether or not it's more effective or efficient to donate directly to the organization or to do it through your church. I know that St. Mark's is pretty good at not sitting on money, so it gets distributed as ASAP. Mm-hmm. and so forth. And I know we're also trying, the world isn't always cooperative about these kinds of things, but to have a month emphasis. Lutheran Community Services Food Pantry and month and this month and that month and so forth. And I know Family Promise, I believe it's February.
Well, I actually know that there's quite a generous amount of money in the budget. So for this Do More 24, and I mentioned it to Gail Roger and a couple people that possibly St. Mark's could make a donation because it's being matched.
Oh, wow, okay.
So that's kind of a nice thing.
Sure.
And if they're going to buy the property, I don't know, they'll probably have more fundraising events coming up to help with that.
The foundations in this area, and again, I'm out of the loop when it comes to a lot of these things. I just, it's not just I was hanging out in PA, I was enjoying civilian life, and now I'm back. Sorry. I've flunked retirement 3 times, as I like to say. Anyway, it used to be that the foundations were more apt to give to capital campaigns than and building programs and those kinds of things that they could see, rather than to simply programs that, might or might not last and that kind of thing. So I would presume if they're building a building, that some of the Longwood Foundation and some of those others around here, I think, still exist.
And I know some banks, Bank of America, I think, or I might have the wrong bank, has, sponsored things. And when St. Mark's did Christmas 2 years in a row, and there were a lot of people that donated, not only our members, but there were people other organizations, because they have a giving heart at that time of the year.
Sure, absolutely.
But the need is all year.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. So there is a building or an expansion program.
In the works.
In the works. It's not established yet?
I'm not sure. She said looking at buying.
Gotcha.
So it's a project that they're considering.
But she pretty much said that she thinks this will happen.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it sure would be. Okay. Anything else that comes to mind or heart that would be helpful for people to know?
I think just that the need is always there.
Yeah, it's not going to go away anytime soon.
No, it's not. And that, again, the goal is to try to keep families together, at their worst, at their worst times. It's, to keep the family unit intact
Mm-hmm.
so that they can, all together get through the trauma and the issues that they're facing and get back on their feet together as a family unit.
So one other question for me. How does a family find out about Family Promise and vice versa? How does the connection take place?
So I believe that if they call Delaware, the Delaware hotline, I can't remember.
Something like that, yeah.
It's a 411 number, I believe.
Mhm.
If they call into the Delaware services, then and explain the situation, then they can put them in touch with Family Promise and they get in and talk with a caseworker who evaluates their situation, sees whether they're eligible or how, what, I don't know what the criteria is, but to see if they're eligible for the program. And then I guess, like I said, I think that service, is it 211, 411? I don't know.
the number.
I don't know.
Well, that's okay. We can look that up.
And
Right.
Pastor, and if families want to help, and like they say, I don't cook a big meal, they can make cookies. You can come when COVID is behind us enough that we can go and serve. We need people to come and serve and sit with the families, people to do the dishes. It's not just you have to make this big meal.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a whole team
Yeah,
to do it.
absolutely. Okay. And you had said that the turnover is really pretty rapid now. Are there people who have come from another agency to you, or do you have any way of telling that?
The case managers would handle all of that, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
how
everything
often
is
that
pretty
happens.
confidential
Sure.
Yeah.
for them, for the families as well.
Yeah.
And we do have the coordinators, Pam and I would pick up a phone, and we keep that for the week, a cell phone, so that the families can contact us, but not on our own personal phone.
Sure.
So that keeps the privacy and
Mhm.
everything intact.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that, and I know I speak for a lot of other people, and I don't know everybody at St. Mark's who's being involved, but I'm glad they are. And, somehow this is, it's what Jesus would have us be about. For that reason alone, it's necessary and beautiful, and that people can sort of get their sea legs and get off on their voyage after this is amazing. And so, okay, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be back with you in a week or so with a representative of the Delaware Council on Gambling. One of the members has asked that we speak to that. And so when I'm asked to address an issue, I will do everything in my power to find somebody who knows more than I do about that issue and try to bring them in here and have an interview. And so far it's been successful. So keep ideas coming to me, please, and I'll do what I can. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.